Hey, welcome back everyone. It is now the middle of September of 2022, and as we are getting closer to the very release of Star Wars Andor, a lot of fans are also looking forward to the last Star Wars show for this year, which of course is going to be Tales of the Jedi before we head into 2023, with of course the debut of The Bad Batch 2 in January, followed by The Mandalorian Season 3, and then Ahsoka and a whole lot more. This is Mike Zero. Make sure to subscribe if you are new to the channel for future Star Wars updates. Also, by the way guys, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you also very much for the kind support. It is greatly appreciated. Now, one thing about the new Star Wars universe is that a lot of Star Wars fans have been really excited about what Favreau and Filoni are currently crafting behind the scenes to really offer to the Star Wars fandom. Basically, a lot of things are happening back and forth between John, Dave, and George, and what they are currently doing to essentially revive Star Wars Legends, and really cherry-picking the highlights from the big Legends stories like the Thrawn trilogy, Shadows of the Empire, Dark Empire, the New Jedi Order, and a whole lot more. And that brings us to where we are today, right? There's a lot of things happening by the Disney executives and Bob Chapek regulating Lucasfilm and regulating the Star Wars franchise and how it's going to move forward. So that brings us to exactly what Favreau and Filoni have been up to, most recently with the character of Rey, and how they are completely changing not just the character's bloodline, but also the character's backstory. And we will be diving into a lot of that, as a lot of storyboards have been finalized for one of the post-Episode 9 Star Wars TV shows that are currently in the early development phase that will debut, of course, at Star Wars Celebration next year with an official announcement. Now, with Favreau and Filoni now creating new lore changes to the Star Wars universe, they are also focused on making some heavy retcons toward the sequel trilogy movies, one of which is changing and also adding on to Reys' backstory that will change how fans view the character. They already have been in the process of making Rey both a Kenobi and a Palpatine by blood, with getting, of course, a new name as well as Rey Solana. However, some of the backstory details have been inserted into recent storyboards for the upcoming post-Episode 9 project that they are working on right now. Now further, it's described that part of Rey's new backstory that Favreau and Filoni are making is that Rey's mother, Miramur Solana, was not only connected to the Kenobi bloodline, but also a strong Force sensitive that wielded a lightsaber, however was not considered a Jedi in the canon, that currently is being created by John and Dave. The other big lore change that they are giving to Rey's backstory is that Rey's mother and father, who was the son of Palpatine, were drawn together by the Force to create a very powerful Force-sensitive child that would eventually become Rey. So let me just pause here quick for a second. I like how Favreau and Filoni are using the Force as a narrative, very similar to how the Force is what initiated the birth of Anakin Skywalker within Shmi Skywalker. And we already know that Favreau and Filoni are trying to add on to that lore and trying to change that in and of itself, that it was actually Palpatine that initiated the birth of Anakin. We'll tap into that a little bit later. But the thing about this too, that I really like, is that they are creating this storyline, that it was the Force, that there was some more grand story happening behind the scenes, that drawed both, of course, Rey's mother and Kenobi's, or should I say, Rey's mother and, of course, Rey's father together, who both had that Kenobi and Palpatine bloodline to create Rey. Now, we're going to be diving into exactly the meaning of Rey and what backstory change is going to also be applied to all of that by Favreau and Filoni. Now, again, the biggest question of all arises. Is this really necessary? Does this really, mean anything to the Star Wars fans? Is it really going to change anybody's attitude toward the character of Rey? Well, yes and no. I think that you're always going to have a portion of the fans that are not going to care whatever changes are going to be made by Favreau and Filoni, and that's okay. That's perfectly fine. But there's fans out there like myself that are going to find this very entertaining to see, to read, and to listen about this, because this is going to be done in multiple formats. It's going to be introduced in live action form, in books, comics, audiobooks, you name it. So there's a lot on the horizon for 2023 and 2024, and exactly what Favreau and Filoni have planned with, of course, this big strategy of theirs to really kind of change the character of Rey and really add more meaning, not just to the character, but also to the character's name, and we're going to dive into that right now. So, the name of Rey that Rey's mother gave her is said to be based on something substantial in the Star Wars canon that is currently being written by Favreau and Filoni. Rey is described to be based on a Jedi legend warrior from the Old Republic era that was one of the Jedi that fought during the sacking of Coruscant. The new canon is set to illustrate that this Jedi named Rey is how they named Rey, since Rey lived on Coruscant for a couple of years before she was shipped over to Tatooine to be hidden from the Emperor. In the new canon, Favreau and Filoni are about to make it that Palpatine's son is the legitimate son this time around, instead of a cloned copy of himself through gene splicing techniques. So here's another prime example of them changing the lore that J.J. Abrams created, that Rian Johnson created, and this is going to be basically Favreau and Filoni giving us their version of the character Rey. Now, we already know that Daisy Ridley has already signed on for a live-action project to come back as a cameo in a post-Episode 9 series. The same exact thing applies to Adam Driver, as we talked about that just yesterday, if you guys want to go ahead and check that out. A lot of things are brewing behind the scenes, and I think that there's a lot of great things on the horizon. So given that, Rey as a character is going to be enhanced, the biggest question of all is, how is this going to be executed? It's all about execution, right? You can do anything on paper, you can make things sound amazing on paper if you're a writer or any kind of creator, but it's all about execution, right? How is this going to be done properly is all that Favreau and Filoni need to be very well aware of, and I'm sure that they are. I have faith in them. So, on top of all of this, regardless of them changing Rey's backstory and changing her name to Rey Solana and giving her that bloodline connection to both Palpatine and Kenobi, I would like to hear what you guys have to say. Does this really change your attitude or your view or perception of the character of Rey, or your excitement level for the character of Rey itself in the Star Wars world? I would love to hear your opinion on that, because at the end of the day, Favreau even talked about this a couple of weeks ago when it comes to Star Wars, that you have to be very careful with this franchise. Making the tiniest little mistake can really create a domino effect, and he himself said that, and it's so true. The tiniest little mistake can indeed create a domino effect. And I think that that is exactly what happened with the sequels when they were trying to figure out who in the world Rey was. They were dropping all these breadcrumbs, all these little hints that were really pointing toward her becoming a Kenobi. And that eventually all went sideways, unfortunately. And now that's being made into a reality, all thanks to John and Dave. So anyways, guys, drop a comment below. Let me know what you guys have to say about this below in the comments. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.